Welcome back to Kind of Funnies in Review, Pixar in Review. That's right. We are ranking and reviewing every Pixar movie. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Pleasure to be here with all of you.
The Big Dog, Kevin Coelho.
Hey.
Christmas in April, Joey Noel.
I accidentally opened 2 Diet Cokes.
It's a 2 Diet Coke day, Joe. Oh, I can't wait for this. And we have the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Joey, that's your body's way of telling you it needs more Diet Coke.
I don't know if that's true.
100% true.
If I had a Diet Coke for every time my body told me I needed one.
Oh, bro. Here you go, Joe. Cannonball. I'll be right there with you. I'm going to open one right now.
You got to open 2.
Tap away.
Get on our level.
This is my third today, so I think I'm okay. I think I qualify as in the cool kids club.
Suddenly, 3 is your limit.
You can watch this show twice a week on youtube.com/kindoffunny and roosterteeth.com. If you want to listen to it, just search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny in Review. If you want to get the show ad-free, you can be cool like our Patreon producers, the nanobiologist and Tom Bach, who are both Patreon producers making this show happen. And also, they get to watch the show live as we record it. How cool is that, Kevin?
It's pretty rad, dude.
Cool as that.
Cool as rad. It's cool as that. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Is that what I was supposed to say? Why was it
No. You nailed it, but then they just took it to the next level. You know, that's where I want to be on this episode of In Review here. We are brought to you by BetterHelp and Babbel, but we'll talk about that later. Let's get right into it. Today, Frozo. Good. Everyone's favorite Incredibles character, Frozo.
Frozo the clown.
Pretty close.
We're talking about
Frozone.
The Incredibles. Has a runtime of 1 hour and 55 minutes. It was released on November 5th, 2004, directed and written by Brad Bird. He's directed the animated feature films The Iron Giant, The Incredibles, Incredibles 2, and Ratatouille, as well as Tomorrowland and Mission Impossible Ghost Motherfucking Protocol.
Fuck yeah, he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. After the box office disappointment of the first feature, The Iron Giant, he moved over to Pixar and carried over much of its staff to develop The Incredibles. So that's pretty cool. Music was done by Nick. I'm gonna need your help here.
Mike Show.
Damn it! I was looking to you for some real help.
I have to look at it. I have to look at it to be able to say it.
Giacchino?
Giacchino, I think.
Giacchino.
Giacchino.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about this dude for
A bazillion times. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy that did all the.
He did a bunch of Marvel stuff too, right?
He did that, and he did the new Star Trek. The song for Star Trek.
He did the Star Trek reboot soundtracks,
bum, bum.
the Rogue One soundtrack, the Spider-Man MCU themes, Doctor Strange themes, Mission Impossible 3, 4, Jurassic World series. He's working on the Batman upcoming.
Giacchino.
A lot of dope stuff. A budget of $92 million and a box office of $633 million. In terms of awards, this is the first Pixar movie. What's up, Andy?
He's working on the upcoming The Batman movie.
He's
great.
Stuff.
First Pixar
He's the new
movie,
Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer fell off. He's the new Hans Zimmer.
Awards. This is the first Pixar movie to win an Academy Award for a category other than Best Animated Feature, because it won Best Sound Editing since Monsters, Inc. got a Best Original Song. The film won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, beating 2 DreamWorks films, Shrek 2 and Shark Tale.
Oh,
I can't
man.
believe Shark Tale was up for Academy
What an upset.
Award.
What an upset.
It was a dry year that year.
As well as
going
Best
on.
Sound Editing at the 77th Academy Awards. It also received nominations for Best Original Screenplay, Best Sound Mixing. It was the first Pixar feature film to win multiple Oscars. Very cool stuff.
Dude,
Some fun
was
Shark
stats
Tale
for you
not
here.
good? Was Shark Tale not good?
I don't remember enjoying it.
It's early DreamWorks, Kevin. It is.
I mean, so
DreamWorks,
it's Ants,
Kevin.
but like it's 10 out of 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but well,
So it's Prince
I don't
of
know.
Egypt, and it's 10 out of 10. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm talking 3D, where it's like let's just be
talking about Will
Pixar. We
Smith,
want to
right?
be
You're thi-
Pixar.
Kevin, you're thinking the Emperor's New Groove. That's what you're thinking, not Prince of Egypt.
No, I was thinking Prince of Egypt.
What a good movie. Good movie.
Joey,
right
back
there.
me up on this one.
Emperor's
Prince
New
of
Groove.
Egypt, great?
Emperor's
Or-
New Groove so much better.
Never seen it.
Whoa. Okay. All right.
Shark Tale is a 6 out of 10 on IMDb and a 36% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's also got Will Smith and Robert De Niro.
Yeah, Will
Renee
Smith. That's what you need to
Zellweger,
make.
Jack
That's what
Black,
you need.
Angelina Jolie,
Will Smith is the mark of a true blockbuster hit.
Ziggy Marley,
The only know
Martin
movie.
Scorsese.
About Shark Tale is that it has that there's a car wash scene, right? I feel like where they did
Okay,
a
maybe
cover
I
of a
didn't
car wash
see.
song.
I remember
not see
the
Shark
fish. I remember them trying to make the fish look like because Will Smith plays like the goldfish, right, or whatever this is. Am I crazy?
He's just
No,
got. You know what it reminds. You know
he
what? When
plays
I look at
Flounder,
Shark
but
Tale's
Flounder grew up.
when I look at Shark Tale's face, it
Wow.
reminds me of Seaman, the Dreamcast game.
Man, let's never watch this movie, and let's talk about a better movie.
Some fun stats for you here. In the whole movie, there's 35 explosions, 189 buttons being pressed,
Oh, that's awesome.
and approximately 640 gunshots. I love things like that so much. Joey, what did you think about The Incredibles?
I thought it was really fun. This is easily the most like stylized.
Oh, you hadn't
Pixar
seen it?
movie. No, I haven't seen it.
Oh,
I know.
that's right.
Which I have now rectified. It's I really like the style of it, like even the animation and how it's retro and the way that the music is not choreographed. That's not the right word. Orchestrated.
Utilized, basically, yeah.
Yeah. To feel like very retro, like 50s, 60s and stuff like that, I think is really, really cool. And I think that's like my favorite aspect of the movie. I think the story is really fun. I think the characters are fun. It didn't have an emotional resonance with me, which is kind of what I was expecting out of Pixar, at least based on like the last few that we've watched. But I guess other than that, I really liked it. It was really fun. I was telling Tim this earlier when we were talking. I had a moment in the middle of the movie where I heard it's like the really spy-ish kind of music, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've heard this song before. I swear this is the song that they play like during part of the WandaVision credits." And then I was like, my brain was going, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't covered this." I was texting Andrew Goldfarb about it. He was like, "Oh my gosh, you should make a TikTok about it and go viral, LOL." And then it dawned on me, no, not in the WandaVision credits. It's just a sound that people use on TikTok when they talk about WandaVision, and I should really maybe spend more time on TikTok. Maybe that's what I should be doing with my time.
Andy, what do you think?
It's just an absolute delight. The cast is great. I think it's, like Joey was mentioning, just one of the most unified in terms of just singular visions of what is supposed to be here. Like, it feels like Brad Bird kind of controlled everything and said, this is the vibe we're going for. This is how I want the music to be. This is what I want the art direction to be. It's really, I don't know, unified. That's really the only word I could think of. It's fun as hell. Characters are great. Is that homeboy from all of the Kevin Smith movies as Syndrome?
Yes.
It's Jason Lee.
Yes, it
yeah.
is
Jason Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just love Jason Lee as Syndrome. It's your classic, you get wronged by the dude you love, and then you turn bad. It's just great. It's all around fantastic, and it's fun as hell. And all I could think while watching it is like, let's remaster The Incredibles 1. Pixar.
Yeah.
Let's remaster this. Let's put it back through the pipeline. Let's add some new lighting. Let's add some new textures. Keep the same voice actors. Keep everything else the same. But let's remaster it. Let's make it look a little bit more updated, because it's kind of shows its age in some spots, but still fucking phenomenal. Absolutely great movie.
Nick Scarpino.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree. I think this is as close to a near perfect like superhero movie as it gets. I love this movie. I think it's like one of my top 10 all-time favorite movies. And every single time I watch it, I'm just blown away by how everything is set up perfectly for a great payoff at the end. That is both thematic and also physical. The shot where I remember specifically two shots in this movie that we'll get to, and I'll probably lament again on it because I'll forget that I talked about them already. But the shot where they finally all come together and they hug each other for a second, and then they realize there's more danger and they strike the pose is on par with like the original Avengers pose strike for me. That moment was so good, and everything built up to that. And then of course my all-time favorite moment, pretty much across the board in any Pixar movie, is where Dash is running and he looks ahead and he sees water and he closes his eyes for a second. And Joe, to your point about the music and how well it's utilized, it cuts out and you just hear that, and he opens his and just the look of exhilaration and like fucking hype on his face as he realizes he's literally running on water, and the soundtrack just kicks right back in. It's just, I love it. I look forward to it. I love this movie. Put it at number 1. We're done.
Wow.
Where's he going?
There's no door over there.
I really enjoy everything about this movie. This is interesting though, because this is the first time I've rewatched a Pixar movie, and I've seen this movie multiple times, but this is the first time I went to watch it and was like, why does this look like utter trash? Like, so much of this looks like and unrendered, like
Unlit, not fully rendered
animation.
type stuff.
Yeah. Like the stuff that Paula works on before someone else gets a pass.
The previs.
Yeah. And it's shocking because like ants and stuff. No, not ants.
Bug's
Life. Like I remember it looking not great. Finding Nemo, I remember the water looking really cool and everything else looking fine. This is the first movie I think that we're rewatching the Pixar thing where I was like, whoa, my mind prettied this up quite a bit. I mean, that obviously didn't change how I felt about the movie. The movie's so much fun. As soon as I was done, we started Jack's Adventure.
Oh.
What, the little like 5 minute.
Yeah, that's not on our list. That's not on our list.
You guys are missing out. You guys, it was right there. It's 5 minutes and it's goofy. It's just the other side of the
what he's doing the whole
messages.
time.
Yeah, the voicemail is she's leaving the babysitter. But yeah, it was a blast. This thing, Jason Lee's so good in it. Oh man.
Yeah, fun fact about Jason Lee: he was cast as Syndrome on the strength of his performance as Azrael in Dogma.
That's cool.
When
And he brought that
Jason
exact
Lee,
same energy.
as Buddy, first enters Mr. Incredible's car. Mr. Incredible stutters over the boy's name, and he ends up saying Brody. Brody is the character Jason Lee plays in the Kevin Smith movies, which is super fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with all of you guys. Pixar movies, so far at least, like they just can't miss. Like this is another hit. It's amazing. I do really appreciate how different it is from the other ones, and I think that in terms of where I'd rank it, I'd put this a little lower because it doesn't have the Pixar magic that Joey was talking about of like that emotional level of thematically and all that stuff. I think that this is, like Andy was saying, a lot more straightforward than the other movies so far. And what Kevin was saying about the visual look of it all, it's because it's humans. You know, we've been talking about Pixar being so good at building worlds around the toys or the bugs or the under the sea
Fish.
and monsters. And then when we get to this and they're dealing with humans, and I just don't think the art and CG was quite there yet for this because
I don't even think
dealing with the humans makes them look really, really, really kind of like rough. And it's not a fault of the art style. The art style is fantastic. I mean, look at the character designs of the family versus Edna Mode. Like there are choices that are brilliant and work really well. But yeah, it's just a remaster would go a long way to not be a distracting like, oh, this is showing its age a lot visually. But I think from a story perspective, it is, like Nick was saying, so damn close to perfect. The one bit that really is a letdown to me is the final fight scene when they throw the leg back at it to defeat it. And the only thing I don't love about it is that they're not working as a team. It's just Mr. Fantastic kind of throwing something and then ducking out of the way. Well, yeah, Mr. Incredible. And then just ducking out of the way. It's like, for as great as the moment of their first kind of team up when they have the pause and they all fight together, that's so good. And then the second fight just kind of felt like you always need to have a better fight the second time than the first. And I think this one really kind of missed the mark in terms of that, of adding up perfectly. Wasn't bad. It just kind of was a little lacking compared to the rest.
See, that part never bothered me, and I'll disagree a little bit with you guys about the emotionality of it because I feel like it's the relationship between Mr. Incredible and his kids and his family, and that moment where like he thinks they're dead it crushes me every time, and just the idea that when they're all, I love the style of this, and like I think the part of it is like, hey, we're gonna hit that for a second, then we're gonna get right on to the next thing. He has that one moment where he's like, I'm sorry, kids, like I failed you, and I should have been there for you. And he's like realizing all these mistakes he made in his past. Meanwhile, Violet like uses her powers, just rolls out and frees herself, and she's like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, we got some shit to do. But on the art style, obviously, like the art style is what it is. But I think that speaks to how good of a movie this is and how creative the choreography is that I'm still blown away when I watch the fight scenes that I think they're actually better, like it hold up, if not better than a lot of the stuff we see like in even the Marvel shows. Like they're just so creative and their powers are so well balanced against what Syndrome's capable of that you feel the stakes at every single step of the way.
I think what Kevin was trying to mention was more of like, I think it's not the fact that they're humans that bothered me at all, because I thought a lot of the human animation looked fantastic and the models were great.
Some of the
I could see,
awesome.
I could see some of the issues where, there are certain like weird kind of bumps and parts of their body that shouldn't have bumps and shading because it's just
Andy,
it's a
those
part
go
of
away.
how
You put a little cream on 'em.
it's part of how the 3D model gets made. But I kind of agree with Kevin where I was talking more of just there are certain environments that's like what the lighting just looks weird. Like we need a couple extra lighting passes. It
Yeah.
looks like step 2 when they add all the comp in. Then like 3 looks better, and then 4 has the background or whatever. I was just talking more just environmental lighting. Let's remaster this. That's going to be my goal for 2021.
I was just gonna say there's a bunch of texture things that like bother me where it's like at one point someone's wearing a flannel shirt, I think it might be violet, and like there is no texture on the flannel print. It's just it doesn't look like an actual piece of clothing. It just looks like they slapped on the print and they were like, all right, it's fine. We don't need to take it any layer closer, which is interesting because at this point they'd done Monsters Inc. and the hair textures look so good there. And also like the sky, there's a scene where someone's standing on the top of a waterfall and like it's a top down shot and you can see that like the like cliff that they're on, the rock just looks like there's almost no texture on it. It just looks speckled.
There's no depth to it. It's just, gotcha.
Yeah. Very flat. Sky is like that too a lot of times.
Let's remaster it.
Something I was really impressed by rewatching this movie for the first time in a while is that it's not just a dope superhero movie. Like there's so many cool spy elements, and I think that the music is obviously inspired by old James Bond and things like that. But even like the Mission Impossible vibes that come from this, like this is such a great love letter to both the superhero and spy genre, and it's surprising, especially now, so many years later, 16 years later, with so many more superhero stories told in every single medium possible. So many quality superhero stories that this kind of has so many great elements of all of them. And it's one movie that sets this world up fantastically, sets characters up, both superheroes, villains, family dynamics, like past, present, like all this type of history. And it deals with things that we see in Civil War, that we see in, a post-Infinity world, that we see in just like the gathering together and origin stories. But it balances them all in a very, very effective manner that I think is what really makes this movie stand out as something special as a superhero movie, because it very much is a superhero movie as much as it is a Pixar movie.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing I want to know about the like emotional strengths of this movie is I think that it does have like a important message, or not message, but like how all of the Pixar movies have kind of like a theme. I think that this one just doesn't resonate with any of us. It's
parenthood,
like a midlife.
kind of, yeah.
Well, no, I think it's a midlife crisis. Like Mr.
yeah,
Fantastic, like puts his family
Incredible.
in a Mr. You're right. And puts his family in. Well, it's funny because Nick said it, I like laughed, and I've been thinking about it. Mr. Incredible puts his family in like tremendous danger, not thinking of the consequences, and it reaches the lows that he thinks he killed his whole family. So it's just one of those things
Maybe
that it's hard to relate to because we're not.
Was any of this worth it? Was sinking out this thrill worth it?
I mean, I'm not going to say that maybe it resonates with me because I understand what a midlife crisis is, but like,
I was gonna make some jokes.
yeah, that's no, but it's true. Like, I mean, I'm old enough to look back on my past and see some of the good times and bad times, and I understand what it feels like to want to relive one's youth. Except I would dare I say I don't think my youth was nearly as exciting as Mr. Incredibles because he was tall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of all it was.
Mm-hmm.
He's got really small feet, though. He's got
He does
really
have tiny
small,
little feet, man.
Little tiny feet, yeah.
All right.
Would you trade that? And probably not. Please tell us the story. Yeah, Nick, tell us the story.
No Newman involved in this one.
No,
Thank
no
God.
Newman,
Tragic.
unfortunate.
Thank God.
His talents were not needed for this, The Incredibles, Tim, because as you said, this is a superhero spy movie and it's got style. And you know what Randy Newman does and does not have?
Wow.
Either of those things. He's just a blunt instrument you hit bang against the piano until the same theme comes out over and over and over again.
Man.
Bring it. You know what they need? This is what they need. You want style, you want substance,
Double down.
you want a hearty meal, Tim. You got to bring in the Italian guy. You got to get Gino and bring his little short ass in here and have him pound away at those keys. This is gonna be great. Why am I insulting everyone now? It doesn't matter. I love everyone.
I'm glad you said it though, not
I love everyone. The Incredibles, man. We start with these old 4x3 interviews of Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, and Samuel L. Jackson, proving why they are arguably three of the greatest actors ever made. They talk about secret identities and settling down to have a family. And I love all this stuff. And then we get a dope-ass title sequence in the first action set piece, and the music here is just bangers, man. Mr. Incredible spots a car chase and then transforms both himself and his car. And again, they want to talk about creativity, right? Using all of the fun tropes of the spy genre, right? He hits a button, goes flat in his car, and it changes his outfit. Why? We didn't need to see that because it's cool, right? And then the car changes also, which I think is kind of another play on the fun joke there. And then, of course, as he's going to fight crime, he sees an old lady who needs to get her cat out of a tree. So instead of climbing the tree, he uproots the tree and then starts shaking the shit out of it to get the cat out of it. And then right when the cat drops, he notices the car chase coming around the corner, and he swats at the car and stops it.
This was the first time that I noticed that this is the old lady he then helps as 2 minutes later. Never noticed that before.
Interesting.
But I was like, she looks
I didn't
familiar.
put that together either.
Yeah, and then 2 minutes later, it's like, oh, she's the one that's trying to get her claims adjusted.
Oh, I never noticed that. That's funny. That's really cool. Of course, when he gets back into his car, Incrediboy is there waiting for him. He's Mr. Incredible's #1 fan, but he's more of a stalker. So Mr. Incredible ejects him and heads up to take out a robber, which when he gets there, Elastigirl beats him to the punch, both figuratively and literally. She knocks him out. And I love how they have a quick conversation where he's like, I did that. And she's like, no, I was here before you. And then even the criminal's like, no, I mean, to be fair, she did get me first. And he's like, shut up. And of course, you're not quite sure what their relationship is. But he kind of, she's like, what are you doing later? He goes, I got something, I'm prior engagement, I think is what they, is the words they use, which is fun because it's a little play on words too, as we'll see in a little bit.
This is the longest Pixar movie to date, right?
I think so.
It's an hour 51.
Hour 55.
No. Like just like
where
so
we
far,
are
in
absolutely.
interview.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 155, I think. What
Okay.
it was for this one. Yeah.
Oh, he asks her what she's doing. She's not previously engaged. Then he spots Frozone chasing after a helicopter, and then Frozone. What I love about this is like, if you notice, Frozone chased after the helicopter, and then he screams back, "Shouldn't you be getting ready?" And then we don't see him again. That's a whole other thing that's happening, And then he saves a man from falling to his death. But as he punches him through the glass by accident, he realizes that Bon Voyage is robbing the bank on that floor of that building. Fantastic.
I love all the names of all the fucking heroes and villains in this.
Yeah,
They're just so
fantastic.
perfectly campy.
Perfectly well done. But Buddy interrupts yet again with his rocket boots and wants to be Mr. Incredible's ward. But when he gets rejected again, he thinks it's because he doesn't have powers. And quote, not all superheroes need powers, which become his defining trait. Buddy wants to prove himself by going and getting the police, but he fails to notice a bomb stuck to his cape, which results in a train track below being blown up. And Mr. Incredible once again has to come save the day by stopping a speeding train before it falls off the rails. Bob speeds off to the engagement, but he's late for what is actually his engagement to Elastigirl. And I loved this when I was a kid. Or I shouldn't say when I was a kid. I guess when I was a 20-something.
28-year-old.
I love you so much.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. I put it in here, but sometimes you type stream of consciousness, but it comes out fantasy fulfillment. I thought this was such a cool thing, right? Like where he walks in and I was like, oh, he's actually getting married to her. And then Frozone has that one moment where he's like, Bob, your mask. He has to take it off before he goes in front of all of the people that are at his wedding. They both say, I do. And Elastigirl follows up with, as long as we both shall live, no matter what happens. And then Bob goes, hey, we're superhero. What could possibly happen? Cut to immediately they get sued. Turns out the guy that Mr. Incredible just saved didn't want to be saved. And he
So
suffered a bunch
dark.
of injuries. I know, it's really dark.
Fucking
But
dark.
But I mean, listen, dude, it's Civil War before Civil War. These guys got it made. I mean, Marvel, you're about to get fucking sued by Pixar, except they're the same company, so you can't sue yourself. I tried one time, and the judge was just like, I'm throwing this out of court. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'll throw myself out of court.
Joke's on you, Judge.
You're out of order.
Judge is like, this is traffic court. You're not even in a lawsuit. Anyway,
The bar
Here's
here.
This is kind of what I wanted. What I was pointing out, how in the early days of 3D, when you use like the older ways of modeling, which obviously this movie is kind of based on the older sort of the older ways of modeling. Here we go. Like his right pectoral, there's just like so much weird. Are y'all seeing this? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
it's kind of out of frame.
No,
It's a little bit out of.
Oh yeah, I see. You're
Oh
right,
no,
you're
no,
right.
but
Yeah,
the,
you can
the
kinda see
people
it
in the yeah. Here, let
in the
me
stream.
here we go.
See, Andy, I think you might be
It's just
mistaken in
mirrored.
that.
Yeah, his pectorals just like bumpy in a way that doesn't really make sense. That you could tell like they don't want those bumps there. The amount of times that I would model something and be like, why are there weird sort of shapes going on here? And that's just kind of like how shit worked. And there shouldn't be shading there. Those aren't his muscles. That's just like a fuck up in the geometry. But we've gotten past that. We've gotten better.
Now,
We've gotten better.
now
With that brick
I will say
wall.
this, Andy. None of us actually have pectoral muscles, so we don't know what they look like.
You can make your stance.
I do. You
Science
kidding me?
isn't there.
Very true. Science go far in there. Let's see. Of course,
That's the
this
phrase we
opens up
use.
a slew of lawsuits, which results in the government initiating the superhero relocation program, which absolves all the heroes from their liability so long as they disappear and never practice superheroing ever again. Cut to
Quick
Bob.
question:
Yeah.
Do we think that the superheroes were they employed by the government? Because it definitely seems like Mr. Incredible doesn't have.
I think they were like working with the government. I don't know if they were employed per se, but because he has Rick, right, the handler guy, that's like cool smoking guy, like I'm gonna help you out one last
he's
time.
awesome.
So, but I don't know if that was like his guy back in the day or what. But it's cool. I'm just saying, make the
Who
prequel.
played that guy? I'm gonna look it up.
Good question.
Oh, you know what? In part 2, I think it's the guy who plays Mike Ehrmantraut. Oh, spoilers. Yeah, future
that's
spoilers.
awesome. That's
Okay,
cool.
that's
Bud Lucky, whoever that is.
Bud Lucky.
Lucky.
No idea. It's probably some old actor that Brad Bird was like, I really want to work with him. Everyone's gonna freak, and everyone's like, who's Bud Lucky? Of course, cut to Mr. Incredible, who is working at an insurance firm and has put on a couple, looking a little bit more worse for the wear. But guess what? Still a good guy, which we see him help. To Kevin pointed out, the same old lady as before, and he's giving her all the inside scoop on like how to actually beat the system. He's like, I shouldn't tell you, or I can't possibly tell you to do this, this, and this. And then she starts writing it down, figuring, getting hip to what's going on. I also just want to give a shout
That
out.
was me at Best Buy, dude. Just like,
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
I mean, if you turn in the phone tomorrow, you get all the money back. Kind of, I was like,
Just like, and then I love the visual here. I put a note where, again, you want to talk about like good visual storytelling. He's this massive man in this tiny cubicle, and his is the only cubicle that has the cement column that's like the support structure. So it's actually taking up half of his space as well. So he just has no space.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
which is really, really cool.
gigantic fucking pillar.
It's unbelievable, and he's the only one that has it, right? So it's like it's so
Yeah.
funny because he's stuck. It's like that visually gets across the fact that he is physically and emotionally stuck in this spot, which is cool. Also, shout out to Wallace Shawn, who plays his boss.
Hell yeah.
And
So
is
good.
great in everything that he does. I'll never forget when I read the biography for William Gold. I think it was actually read the history of like the verbal history or not verbal history of Princess Bride, and everyone said that Wallace Shawn was just the most delightful person, but he was always unbelievably nervous he was going to get fired every single time.
That's
He was just-
hilarious.
He was just so sure he was going to get fired. Everyone's like, "You're so good," and he was just like, "No, they're going to fire me. They're going to."
That's amazing.
On the right. Let's see. That same day, Elastigirl, who is Helen, gets called to their son Dash's school because he's using his super speed to harass his teacher. On the ride home, of course, she's
So
kind of sympathetic to him here, too. I thought she was going to lay into him when I first watched this movie, but she's not. She kind of gets, she's like, listen, I know you've got these powers and you want to use them for something like sports, but we can't do that because you're just too damn powerful. Everyone will figure it out and it'll put the family in jeopardy. And then to which Dash says, Dad always said our powers were nothing to be ashamed of. They make us special. And she's like, yeah, but we're tired of moving. So stop using
They
them.
took his character design to like 1,000. They needed to
love
pull
it.
it back a little bit
I
because like
love
it. I love it.
He just doesn't match with anybody else. Like,
Yeah,
he
but
looks
this
like
guy right here.
He looks
he looks like a
he's
Hey
been-
Arnold character.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks like he's been mentally broken down too.
He looks like
by,
Stewie. If it,
Dash.
yeah, I know. I love it. I don't know who plays that character, but he did a good job. The actor did a good job there. Let's see. Over at the high school, Violet has a crush on Tony, but is too bashful to make eye contact. So much so that when he looks her way, she turns invisible. Great scene where Mr. Incredible gets home and breaks his car. So he picks it up to throw it. And when he does, it reveals one of the neighborhood kids on a tricycle.
Oh,
and he's
fucking
like
kid.
terrified. awesome. And I love, by the way, that again, you want to talk about just the perfection of beats that are set up. That comedy of threes, right? We see this kid one more time, and then by the very end of it, he just happened to be there witnessing that final fight, and he fucking loses his shit because it's so cool. It's so great. That's my wife's favorite part of the movie. She's like, "Did you get the part with the kid with the tricycle?" I was like, "Yeah, we're good. We're there." Let's see. We also meet Jack, who will be personally responsible for maybe not one of my favorite scenes in the second Incredibles, which I watch over and over again sometimes when I need to smile. Helen tells Bob that Dash is in trouble, but Bob is more excited than angry because he's like, "How fast did you run?" He's like, "Oh, the camera couldn't see me." And it's like, they're just kind of nerding out over the powers.
I love
Helen's
it.
like,
It's
"You're
so
missing the
great.
point." And then the family, of course, this causes an argument because Bob is a little bit distant. And then they're not a normal family, of course, though. They're a superpowered family. So when they argue, Dash runs around and hits her in the head, and then Violet uses her force field to stop him in his tracks. And then Mr. Incredible has to lift the table up with Helen wrapped around it, and it's a really, really cool, actually kind of sad visual because Bob is in fact depressed, sadly, but not for long because Frozone, who is Lucius, interrupts to pick Bob up for their bowling night. And it turns out, Tim, their bowling night's a lot like our bowling nights, where we just sit in cars and listen to the police scanner, except instead of police scanner, you and I just go get Starbucks.
Listen to the Feeling Myself playlist on Spotify.
Yeah. Which, by the way, Joey, Tim knew. He was like, "Is this Feeling Myself on Spotify?" I was like, "It is."
You were just listening to it, it took like 3
got.
songs, and I'm like, "Yeah, I know this. I know this."
Like,
Wait, by the way, Roger texted me over the weekend and was like, "Hey, what was that playlist you and Nick were talking about?" So now Roger's jamming out, man. I love it.
it's so good. It's so good. Let's see. They get a call to a fire, and they go save some people, but unfortunately, Frozone, all the fire has sucked all the oxygen out of the air, all the moisture out of the air, excuse me. So he can't save them. They got to do the old-fashioned way by bursting through the wall into the next door jewelry shop. And this is how I love this scene. You want to talk about Samuel L. Jackson just being like, listen, the guy can lead a movie, but he's also just a great utility player, right? He's like, "I'm going to get a drink of water." And he's like, "I'm just going to get
I love
some
it.
water."
So good.
And then freezes the guy. And again, talking about how well this movie's shot. We don't need to see it. We don't see what happened until the other cops come in. And they walk past the guy who is still alive and awake, and his eyes are moving, but both himself and the bullet in front of him have been frozen. What a great visual. What a great way to tell this story.
Samuel L. Jackson was cast as the voice of Frozone because Brad Bird wanted the character to have the coolest voice possible. And they knew who to get. And it's like, yeah, of course. But to your point, Nick, I love this scene. The moment that they end up in the jewelry place and the alarms go off and the cops are there, it's like such a moment of oh no. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm already relating to these characters. It's been 5 minutes in this movie and I'm already feeling where they're at. And I'm rooting for them, which is such a sign of a good movie. And Pixar knows how to do them.
They sure do. Bob tries to sneak in, but Helen is waiting for him and calls him out on going out there and fighting crime and basically wanting to relive his glory days instead of, quote, being present for what's happening now with the family. Great scene where they talk about letting their kids be extraordinary. This is to me the heart of the movie, right? Where it's that argument of Helen wants to keep their kids safe and wants to just move forward, and Bob wants to give their kids the opportunity to be as special as he knows they can be, even though it might put them in danger. It's such a good kind of diametrically opposed parenting thing to do because neither of them are wrong, but neither of them are 100% right either.
It's a great little I love that back and forth of I said I'd be back later. Yeah, if you came back at all, you'd be back later. It's just it's a husband and wife just, what the hell are you doing out there with the fucking little brownie popping out of his mouth, the little crumb falling down. So good.
I forget how much I love Holly Hunter until I watch this movie. And I was
know.
like, I feel like they could have gone so many different directions with her character. And Holly Hunter is such a kind of off choice for it because I feel like they could have gone someone way more cartoony or whatever. But the way that she plays it, I feel like is so grounded, and the chemistry that she has with Craig T. Nelson is 10 out of 10.
And I mean, and I think the character itself is three-dimensional. And I don't mean that as a pun. I mean that it could have been Mr. Incredible's story and the family could have been secondary. But I really do think they make, at least with Helen and Bob, they are the main characters. They are the ones that have this conflict, and they're both real. And yeah, Holly Hunter just brings such just amazingness to this role that you kind of, even in this argument, you're as they're talking, I see both sides. Oh, I see his side. I see her side. They're they're just these two powerful people who care about their kids, and it really comes through. And of course, then the kids are there because you can't hide anything from super normal kids, let alone kids that can run at the speed of light or whatever the frick Dash can and go invisible.
Also, his name's Dash. Fuck yeah.
Well,
So cool.
What I love about though is his full name's Dashel, right? But they call him
Yeah.
Dash. Fucking rad.
So sick.
Think about it. I'm just saying,
that's a
as people
coincidence.
start to procreate, think about it. That's a dope fucking name.
I'll think about it.
A fun fact for you here is DC Comics objected to the name Elastigirl due to their character Elastigirl. The spelling's different. In this one, it's all one word, but for them, it's Elasta-Girl. A compromise was reached where outside the film, so promotional materials, etc., toys, all of that, Elastigirl is known as Mrs. Incredible.
Oh, that's cool. I guess.
I mean,
Like, just fucking be cool, DC. Like, what the hell?
yeah, DC, come on, man.
Don't you want to have a good movie?
Don't you? I know. Don't you have one character that's represented on the cinema that people care about? There it goes. Those are the comments right there for the rest of the time. Tim, why'd you let us go there? Tim, why'd you let us go there?
It was
your
me.
fault,
It was me.
See that, Andy? Push it off. Push it off.
Before we push it off, let me tell you about our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. A lot of us take care of our bodies, but last year and even this year have been so tough that we might also want to take care of our minds. There's a misunderstanding of what therapy is. It can be whatever you want it to be, whatever you need it to be. It doesn't have to be sitting around talking about your feelings, although sometimes that helps too. A lot of people battle with their temper or their stress is about to kill them, or they have depression, anxiety, PTSD, the list goes on. If this is you, you can use therapy to get some tools that make life easier. We've all had those moments where it's just nice to just have somebody to talk to. When everyone is struggling with something, there's no more shame. You don't have to tell everyone your personal business, but you can talk to a therapist about it privately. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. That's a great option. I know a lot of people are a little scared about doing all this, and there's a lot of hesitation based on privacy and all that stuff, and no need for that. Whatever works for you is available here. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. You can join the millions of people who are seeing what therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. This episode's sponsored by BetterHelp, and you listeners out there can get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp at betterhelp.com/morning. That's BetterHelp.com/morning. BetterHelp.com/morning. And also, shout out to Babbel. For most of us, learning a second language in high school or college wasn't exactly a high point in our academic careers. Oh man, I had to take Spanish, and despite the fact that I grew up with Kevin and his family speaking Spanish around me all the time, I did not do well. I did not do well at all. I wish that Babbel was around then to help me, because good Lord, everyone knows school could not do that for me. Now, thanks to Babbel, the #1 selling language learning app, there's an addictively fun and easy way to learn a new language. Whether you'll be traveling abroad, connecting in a deeper way with family, or you just have some free time, Babbel teaches bite-sized language lessons that you'll actually use in the real world. It's really cool stuff. Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go. Greg's always talking about how he's trying to learn little cute French phrases to impress his wife, Jen. It's fantastic stuff. That's a sign of true love, everybody. Babbel designs their courses with practical, real-world conversations in mind, things you'll get used to in everyday life. Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. That's pretty cool. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you to improve your pronunciation and accent. Start your new language learning today with Babbel. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to Babbel.com and use promo code MORNING. That's BABBEL.com, code MORNING for an extra 3 months free. Babbel, language for life. Go for it, Nick.
Good segue. Of course, the next day, Bob gets fired. So instead of dealing with that like an adult, he throws his boss through 5 walls and breaks every bone in his body, which I was like,
All of us haven't wanted to do that to a shitty boss, though, you know?
I know. I've had so many bosses now that I'm like, come fucking meet me in the streets, bro. Put your badge down, put your gun down, and let's fucking mano to mano fist the cuffs.
I mean, I'm shocked we didn't get The Boys Invincible style murder right here. Like to be thrown through this many walls. I just expected to see a pulp of like a body stuck against the wall.
Bob gets home, and the same kid from last night is there. And he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh," he's like, "What are you doing? I'm waiting for what? I don't know, something amazing." And he's like, walks inside.
Something amazing, I guess. What a memorable line that when this is one of those movies that I just saw a lot of times as a kid, and it just feels good, man. It just feels good to watch again. All the quotable quotes, the memorable characters. It's a fucking solid movie, dude.
Of course, he opens a piece of mail carrying an iPad with a message from Mirage inviting him to take down an experimental robot that's run amok at a remote test facility. If he accepts, he'll get triple his annual salary. And quote, "You can still do great things, or you can listen to police scanners." And Bob's like, "Well, fuck that." And he stares at all the cool news articles and memorabilia from his day as the amazing musical score plays until the message self-destructs and it's way too much smoke, and it brings the smoke alarms or fire alarm rather. Everything gets wet, and then it immediately cuts to him hair drying off all the books, just miserable. Like,
but how fucking awesome is it that Brad Bird then goes on to make a Mission Impossible movie after this?
Great. I would if I saw him. I'd be like, you're really good at making spy movies that are action based. Like, let's go.
That was always the coolest thing leading up to it. It's like, oh, this is Brad Bird. This is Incredibles director. Holy shit! That I remember that being one of the more anticipated things leading up to Ghost Protocol, and it then became probably one of my favorite Mission Impossible movies.
Indeed. He next lies to Helen and tells her that the company is sending him to a conference, and then gives Mirage a call to accept the job. Bob suits up and heads to the island as Mirage preps him to take down an advanced AI robot. But Bob has been putting on a couple pounds every year, and his belly sticks out a little too far to make it through the launch tube. So there's that little fun comedic beat where he's like, "Thum, thum," and it just shoots him out. When he finds the robot eventually deep in the jungle, they start fighting, but it proves harder than expected to take out. He gets cornered at the bottom of a volcano, and this is a great scene where he like throws his back out because he's too old, and then the thing grabs him and pulls him, and then it puts his back, which I was. It puts his back in alignment. He's like, "Oh, thank God!" And then realizes that the only way to beat this thing is to go inside of it, which I have thought many, many times about just various different things that I have to battle, guys.
We're there.
You know?
We're there.
Just get in there.
Rashida Jones looked like she could play Mirage.
100%.
She could have played Mirage. You know what's funny is I actually didn't know until this last watch. I was like, who voiced Mirage? And it's Elizabeth Pena, who, if you look up a picture of her, if you're not familiar with her work, she's been in a ton of stuff. Yeah.
A million
I was like, oh,
things.
shit. That was cool. She did a great job with that. Also, am I the only person that thought Mirage was going to have superpowers and she didn't end up having superpowers? When you first watched this?
They imply she's a super. She says people like us.
But she didn't do anything. I thought she was going to be able to make you see shit.
She's smart.
Elizabeth Pena, she passed, right?
Oh, she may have. Did she?
I think she did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2014.
Well, that's
2014.
That sucks.
Oopsie, that sucks.
Of course, Bob burrows his way inside, and then watches as the robot, his spiked claws, which are the only thing that can penetrate the armor of this thing, break through and just rip it apart, and then it dies. Syndrome and Mirage watch from a monitor in their lair, which is built into the side of a volcano, complete with a wall of lava that parts at will. It is so
cool.
Freaking cool.
The shot of both of them sitting down, just so cool looking. What a like one of those one perfect shot sort of things. But also just not very practical. Let's just talk about how the heat would probably get to them. And when they are eventually walking through, there's no way that you're not sweaty and just gross.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
You're that close to lava.
I mean, you're missing out on the whole point that when you're done with that day, your abs are fucking tight. Like you take that shirt off and you're
yeah.
Dude,
you know.
It's really funny. I
Totally
looked
worth it.
The actress that played Mirage yesterday, I was like, she looks hella familiar. Where do I know her from? She was in Batteries Not Included.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was written by
Bamba,
Brad
too.
Bird.
Was it
No
really?
way.
No, you're lying.
It
That would've been
was.
lying.
Screenplay by Brad Bird.
Wow.
He's telling the truth.
Y'all look like idiots.
It all comes full
Did I
circle.
ever tell you
Gotta tell you. I questioned myself there.
Yeah.
That was right though.
I once
It was
went,
Tim, it was either Brad Bird or Chris Columbus. They wrote everything.
Exactly.
I was gonna say I once went. This is the only time I'll ever be able to bring this up organically. I once went on a tour to ILM, and I got to see the little robots from Batteries
Oh,
Not
I would
Included.
cry.
And it
I would
was
fucking cry if I saw those things.
one of the most magical experiences I've ever had in my entire
I'm crying
life.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm
He's
starting to
crying
well
right
up.
now.
Yeah.
Dude, speaking
Those
of just
things-
writers and things like that, when this movie ended and it said produced by John Walker real big, I was like, you motherfucker. And like, that's the dangers of names, man. People names get associated with bad things. You're like, I never want to hear the name John Walker again. But,
Captain America, fake
Uh,
bitch.
I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Bob returns home a new man and starts getting jacked by lifting trains and buying sports cars. Also, he and his wife smooch a lot, and it's real nice, Tim. He
He
spots
gets a
a
big
little
fan of
pep back
smooching.
into his step. It's very
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah,
He's
you
excited
get
about
a
life.
They are
jacked.
banging a lot. They are banging a lot. Let me tell you, dude. Like the amount of times that she's pulling him back into that house to just like get some of that, she's stretching left and right. It's amazing.
No.
Can't
I
wait.
like when he gives her a little pat on the caboose and then walks all the way down the hallway and then she pats him because she's got the arms. She's like, oh,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Looks back and she's like all the way down the hallway. She's
So,
like, yeah,
It's adorable.
it's cute. It's very cute. And then of course he spots a little tear in his original suit, so he heads to Edna E. Mode to fix it. Who, like my mother, immediately tells him he's gotten fat. Edna's having
It's
a
like
crisis
after he
of her.
lost all the weight, and it's like, what?
I know.
Like,
But you know what's
God,
funny? So I used to be a size 36. I think he measures himself when he's finally done, when he's kind of like jacked out but still big,
Yeah.
and he's like a 36. And he's like, I'm happy with that. And man, I did not look like that when I was a size 36. Not
You're
at all.
short. You're still short.
Still vertically challenged.
Good Lord. Lily Tomlin was considered for
She would've been
Edna Mode.
great,
Not
too.
considered. She was gonna be it, but turned it down when she heard Brad Bird's vocal performance for the demo. Was like, "What do you need me for? You got it already."
That's awesome.
Fucking
Yeah.
Lily.
That's so
badass.
cool.
That's
So
a bad ass fucking thing to do if you're Lily
Like,
Tomlin.
believe in yourself, Brad Bird. You're fucking talented. That's
This
cool as hell.
character is great, has some of the best lines in this whole movie. And of course, her whole backstory is that she is the designer for all of the costumes for all the supers back in the day, but is now unfortunately saddled down with using her talents to design for what she says is supermodels. She's like, there's nothing super about them. I used to design for gods. But Bob's
that
like,
moment is
listen,
so good.
that's so good.
With the
Yeah,
wide shot
with the
like, God.
statue.
Yeah.
And I love like everything comes like in her apartment is that like deco style, super sharp style with everything like gods throwing thunderbolts and stuff like that. It's super cool. But Bob's like, listen, all I need is a quick patch job. And she says, oh, this is an old mega mesh suit, sturdy but ugly. She tries to throw it out, but he's like, no, you can't throw it out. She goes, well, I'll patch this, but I'm also going to make you a new one. And he says, cool. I would love to have a cape. And she says, no capes. And he's like, why not any capes? And then they go through the funniest montage in this whole movie where she's like,
So
remember
good.
Thunderhead? What about Shadow Girl? And of course, Shadow Girl is the one that gets caught in a jet turbine and a Dino Guy. And then there's Splashdown. And he goes, fine, I get it. No capes. But just patch the suit and I'll be good to go. Mirage calls with a new assignment, but Helen overhears the call this time. And this part is very sad for me, where she's like, Bob, I love you. And he's like, I love you too. And it's like, oh, you guys just need to communicate a little bit better. And Bob, maybe stop lying to your wife. Also, she's going to figure it out because if you start bringing home 3 times your annual salary every weekend, she's
Some
going to be like,
questions are gonna come
who
up.
are you
yeah.
killing? Like, are you an assassin now? Helen's not stupid. Bob flies to the island in his new red suit and lands underwater, which is cool. He's greeted by Mirage and taken to his room, which has a hell of a view. Back at home, Helen spots the patch job in his suit and immediately knows it's Edna's work. He calls her and she tells her Helen to come on over. Bob heads to the conference room where he thinks he's going to meet with Syndrome, but is immediately attacked and overwhelmed by an even bigger robot. Enter Syndrome, who comes in monologuing like a mofo. He is, after all, Mr. Incredible's biggest fan, and Mr. Incredible finally realizes, holy crap, it's Buddy. I should have killed that kid when I had the chance.
What the
Kevin,
fuck?
Kevin, you had your
this
hand
guy
raised?
This guy looks like CG in a commercial. It's terrible looking.
Yeah. It really
Like a
does. It looks like
a progressive auto commercial.
Oh God.
Right?
That's like
Progressive- I
local.
feel like
It's a local
Progressive's-
commercial.
Progressive's
My
being
bad.
nice. It looks like General.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
general insurance
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah.
Kevin,
Your
what were you gonna
camera's
say?
gone.
Oh,
there you go.
here we go.
I was gonna say, oh shit, what were we just talking about? No, I guess I lost it. That sucks.
Oh,
the
we're
new
talking
suit.
about like
No, the new
Yeah.
suit. I like his blue suit way more.
Oh, yeah, it's way cooler.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But
Okay.
to all
They
of them
all look
together
so
look
cool
cool.
together in
Yeah.
the red. Yeah.
The red pops for sure when they're all together, but him by himself, I mean, I'm with Cav. I like blue and black way better than the red and black.
But I'm also the type that just loves colorways. I love the alternate colors. Like I don't know, if there's like a 5-year anniversary of The Incredibles and then they commemorated that by wearing different costumes, I would probably think those were cooler than the ones they're wearing. Like if they went like all red or all black or something, like, oh, that's cool. I love that shit.
Let's see. They fight, but Bob catches him monologuing and hurls a tree trunk at him. But unfortunately, even that can't stop Syndrome, who uses his 0-point energy to stop Bob right in his tracks, but ends up accidentally throwing him over toward a waterfall, which Bob jumps off and hides in the water as Syndrome tries to blow him up. Bob escapes into a cave where he finds the remains of Gazer Beam, one of the other heroes that Syndrome used to test all of his robots. Very dark. Before he died, Gazer Beam carved the words Kronos into the rocks in front of him, which I always thought was a cool name. Helen heads to Edna, who was
real quick.
I think he was probably the same as Bob, where he was like, I'm doing some investigation here, and then ended up getting killed. Like, you know, it's like, how long do you're like, how many times can you use the like, oh, my robot went crazy, until on the third one you're like, hey, fool me once. You know what I mean? Like, stop making these robots.
I do want to say that the turn and sort of the reveal of Syndrome and his reintroduction, I guess, to Mr. Incredible, I think that's the part that I like least about the movie. I think him revealing himself to Mr. Incredible and saying, kind of like, hey, I was the bad guy all along, or I'm the one who's kind of been coordinating all these things here on this island. It felt kind of anticlimactic to me. I thought that I felt like there should have been more of a kind of lead up and slow hints and reveals. Yeah, because it's just Syndrome popping up and be like, hey, I'm the bad guy. Remember me? You fucked me over. Now I'm bad. And it's just like, and Mr. Incredible, I expected more of a, wait, you're the fucking kid. Well, hey, how's it going, kid? Like, I wanted there to be a little bit more of a, we're nice to each other, but you fucked me over. And Mr. Incredible slowly realizing, oh my God, I did kind of fuck you over. It's just kind of a little too quick of a reveal. And I think this is my least favorite part of the movie. It feels just a little rushed. I wanted more of a slow build to the introduction.
I do think that like it's very fitting for Syndrome to be like, oh, now this version is gonna kill him no problem, and just kind of be like, all right, well, I'm revealing it because you're about to die, you know?
Yeah, I mean, also the character is like, obviously can't wait to reveal himself because he's been spurned by.
Don't like saying this.
His idol. Well, I mean, you know, I mean, I always found that as being like incredibly indicative of what the Syndrome character would do, because you have to imagine he's just like Mr. Incredible is the guy he wants to just rub in his fucking face that he pulled one over on, because he's hurt. You know, he's that hurt little kid, and Mr. Incredible was a dick to him. I unfortunately, like, I'll agree with Andy on one point though, that like I feel like they should have had a little bit more of a resolution to the story, but what are you gonna do?
I'm with Andy entirely. And I think a problem this movie has is that unlike the other Pixar movies so far, this is comparable to other things. So any storyline that's similar to the ones that we've seen before, we're comparing it to those. So when they don't live up to it entirely, it's a little like, oh, this kind of feels lesser than it could have been. Whereas the other things are so complete for what they are.
But I don't think Syndrome's a bad guy in general. Like, I think his motivations are well founded, and I find it entertaining what his motives are, or like what he's trying to accomplish. Where basically he's just like, hey, you hurt my feelings back in the day when I was a kid, and like it crushed me, and now I want to basically make the need for superheroes go away. And I'm going to do that by using my brain and my tech, and I've already outsmarted you. And I think the sign of any good superhero movie is that when the bad guy and the protagonist square off for the first time, if I feel scared for the protagonist, that's good. And I did in this, where it was like he's so overpowered by the robot, and that energy beam that Syndrome has is like just unbeatable, that I'm like, how is one person gonna come close to beating this guy? Spoilers. The whole family does it.
I think so much of it too is that Jason Lee just is so good that it makes the villain more endearing in like a weird way. I think if it would have been anybody else, I feel like I wouldn't have been as sold on it, but I think that Jason Lee just nails it.
I feel like he gets that like iconic villain monologue too, of like, you said I couldn't do it, I created weapons for a bunch of things, like explaining his whole backstory and like filling us all in. But it's also so perfect for what they had set up with Mr. Incredible just being like, yeah, no, you're just normal, stop, you know?
Continuing on, Helen heads to Edna, who's overjoyed to show her off her latest creations, which are super suits for the entire family, machine washable this time. That's new. When Helen asks what's going on, Edna replies by asking Helen an even more important question. She's like, "Do you know where Bob is?" Of course, that night Bob sneaks about aboard one of Syndrome's monorail cars. Love the design of these things. Love the design of how they all come together and like from all the different tracks, like a little circle later. And then again, the blocking here, which is like he sneaks aboard one, and then it cuts to the guard's perspective, and it stops and goes. And they're like, what the hell's that? And then you just slowly see it getting thrown at them, and they die. They're gone. When he gets inside, he sneaks through the lava wall, partially by trying to use that like giant statue that he had, and that's a fun little comedic beat where he finds them coming through and he has to put it right down. I did miss a part where he lobs a rock at a dude's face, and just the guy just falls like 3 stories. This is funny.
I wanted to say at that moment I was like, I wonder how involved these henchmen are, and like whether they're just hired to like guard.
They're not. Kevin. They're not. They didn't sign up for this shit. They're not signing up to have guys lob rocks at their faces.
But they did, because remember later when they're in the RV,
they're taking bets.
They're
those
taking
little fuckers,
bets on like people like fucking getting killed and stuff. They're taking shots whenever anyone yells or something, and it's like these guys are pieces of shit. So blow them all up. Blow
Throw
them
rocks
all
to their
up.
heads.
Blow them all up.
Let
God sort them out.
Absolutely. When he gets inside, he sneaks through the lava wall thanks to Mirage coming out, and he almost barely makes it. To Kevin's point, he's like sweat when he gets there. Then he winds up in a Cerebro-like room with a computer that opens to the password Kronos.
Big old screen, man.
Dope. The computer has details of all the past heroes that battled the different versions of the robots and died. Dozens of them. But the new robot...
really fucked up as well. Really fucked up.
Really dark. Really messed up. The new robot, of course, that's unbeatable, will be launched into the city in under 8 hours. Helen
I love this scene visually. Like, I loved having him walk into the Professor X-esque like room with all the screen and stuff and looking at it. And I love the files when it would bring up the robot and the hero and it'd be like, killed. And then there'd be one killed, and it would like switch back.
Sometimes the robot's lost.
Yeah, it's cool. It was cool to show. Like that's such a touch that like you have to really care to show that, because it could have just showed a bunch of heroes dying, but like very, very cool.
I really wonder what the inspiration was for the guns shooting these black blobs at him. Like
they're terrifying though.
It's such a weird cool. Like obviously you see them pop out of the wall, you just assume, oh, they're guns and they're gonna, but what, like what was the inspiration to say these black blobs that stick to you and stick to the ground? I think it's such a weird creative thing. And yeah, they are really terrifying because he's powering through most of it, but they just get overwhelmed.
You get
fast.
Overwhelmed.
Back at Edna's house, Helen feels very sorry for herself until Edna reminds her that she is Elastigirl. Quote, "You will show him that you remember he is Mr. Incredible, and you will remind him who you are. Now you know where he is. You will confront the problem, fight, win, and call me when you get back. I enjoy our visits."
He's one of the best Pixar characters, I feel like, in existence.
Make a movie about her.
As so much, like, for so little we get of her, I just love her so much, and I feel like she puts a really fun flair on the movie.
Of course, Helen. I skipped a point where Edna put a homing device in his suit, and when she turned it on, that's what caused Bob to get caught. Helen calls a favor in to borrow a plane, but the kids catch on and spot the new costumes. En route, the tower fails to respond, so Helen, thinking twice, pops on her super suit. When she comes back out, of course, we cut back over to Syndrome, who comes to torture Bob so he can figure out who the homing device signaled. They play him a live transmission of Helen's call to the tower, and he realizes, oh shit, she's coming for me, and she's in danger. Back on the plane, Helen discovers Dash and Violet have stowed away. Thankfully, they lined up a setup for Jack. Before she can turn the plane around, Syndrome launches 2 missiles at them. Helen pleads with the tower to disengage as Bob's listening since there are children aboard. She screams at Violet, and this seems so stressful to me because she's like, Violet, put a force field around the plane, but Violet just doesn't know how to deal with that pressure and can't perform. But of course, when she notices her daughter failing, she snaps into action, rolls, scoops up her kids in a giant ball, and shoots out the back of the plane as the missiles hit it and explode everything. Of course, they knock her out, but she wakes up just in time to parachute them down as most of the fuselage above them comes crashing down above them.
Shout outs to the scene. Like
God,
the
fucking
flying,
awesome, dude.
It was so intense, cutting between the actual like Elastigirl flying the plane and then the radio conversation being broadcast in front of them. It's weird where like it's not a dogfight, but like it looks really cool the way they handle it, the way she handles it. Yeah.
Well, it's also like lightning fast, right? And this is the thing, like when we obviously made a lot of fun of like slow motion in other projects, but like there's none of that in this, man. Like it's good choreography, lightning fast, your brain registers it, and then boom, we're gone. And it's very exciting because you're like, whoa, holy shit. It feels like a superhero who was trained just saved you because you were in this spot too. And you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, right? It's like when Tim's like, point. Nick, don't run that red light. I'm like, what? Yeah, that's gone. Run the red light.
Yeah. A fun fact about this scene is that, and to back up what you're saying, Nick, about how it feels, Holly was saying that she wanted to make sure, in the way that Brad wrote this, they wanted to make sure that all of the stuff she's talking about felt accurate with the radio conversations to like imply a backstory of her being military trained, her understanding that stuff and all that. It's just like, again, that's just unsaid things, but her talking the way she does and understanding the things the way she does, it shows she has a history in this stuff. Very cool.
Intense.
That's very cool. Also, just like the way she fights is so fucking cool and feels
she's
powerful
rad as fuck
and feels
man.
like she could fuck people up, which is super important because she feels like she can hold, like that character feels like she can hold her own against anyone else in the universe, right? Like Bob's super strong, but he's not that fast, and obviously he can't do what she can do, which is cool too.
These guys are like government trained. Think about
it. Dude, it's a big conspiracy. We'll see when Tim gets to that part where he has to talk about how this is related to Little Mermaid.
Oh, well, it's a Pixar interview. I mean, this week it is about the government training. So, Kev, stay tuned.
Ooh. Bob
The
freaks
Little
and
Mermaid.
I was trying to say Finding Nemo, Joe, but at my Starbucks the other day, they were listening to like a Disney playlist and the Little Mermaid song was on, so it stuck in my head.
Yeah, when they fall in the water after the aircraft, you see Nemo down there. Yeah.
It's like, where am I? I don't know where I am.
Yeah, I'm lost.
I'm just gonna keep swimming. Bob freaks and grabs Mirage. He threatens to crush her, but Syndrome calls his bluff. He's like, "You're not gonna crush her," and then he lets her go because he's not a bad guy. He can't do that. And then they quietly leave him to weep, which is very sad. Out in the waterfall, Helen rallies the family to head to the island. They're all freaking out. She's like, "Hey, we've been in this situation before. I got you. Don't worry about it." And Tim, how does she figure out how to get them ashore? She forms a boat out of her own body with
So
Dash
awkward.
as the
With
propeller.
her head, like
As the masthead.
perfectly. It's like, good lord.
No, what's the word
Love
I'm
it.
looking for? Not the masthead. That's something way different.
It's the masthead,
but it just
right?
looks like the beginning, like how they have like creatures or like little statues built in or carved into the front of the boat. It just looks so awkward to me every time this scene cracks me up.
It is masthead, Andy.
Yeah,
Masthead is
masthead.
the top of a article, and it's also the ship's.
I knew it was the top of the
Nice.
article
Of the
because
mast.
of Social Network.
Exactly.
I'm in the masthead. That's my that's my
I
impersonation
don't,
of
I don't think is it the masthead?
Edward.
I don't remember. I think he meant I'm in the thing that's on the front of the door.
Yeah,
Front
I think
of
that's
boat.
the top thing from what I'm.
A ship's
seeing.
masthead is the highest part of its mast.
Yeah, so that's
What the fuck is a mast?
It's
Oh, that's
where
the
part-
stick?
Name.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know anything, guys. Don't ever
I was
listen
wrong.
to me, ever.
I was
I
wrong.
also
know
don't
what?
know
Front of boat-
anything, so I might be wrong.
What is the
Nautical.
decoration on the front of a ship called? It's called a figurehead. There it is.
Cool.
How about that?
Dumb masthead sounds way better. Let's change it.
Yeah.
So let's just go with masthead. No one fucking knows. No one's gonna look up a nautical term. They come ashore at night and hide out in a cave. Helen puts Violet in charge and gives them a crash course on the reality of their situation. She says, if you get in trouble, use your powers. I'm like, well, Dad said never to use our powers. And she's like, are you crazy? Did you not see someone just try to blow us up? Now is the time to use your powers. I got to go chase after your father. You guys just figure it out.
Here's another
okay.
moment where we get like really fucking serious, great line where
love
she's
it.
like, like in the movies when there's supers and like it's not like that. These people will
Yeah.
kill you, and it's
They'll
like,
kill
oh,
you.
Shit, this is real as fuck.
Yeah.
And Violet chased after her. I love this scene, right? This again another scene where you're talking about like really complex character moments where Violet's like, I'm sorry for not being able to put the force field around the plane, and Helen goes, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't right for me to put you in that spot. Like, you're not trained, you don't know how to react to the situation. But doubt is a luxury we can't afford now. You have more power than you realize. Don't think and don't worry. If the time comes, you'll know what to do. It's in your blood.
So good. This movie's so good.
I know. And then, of course, as she walks away, another fun little bit of storytelling or visual storytelling is Violet reluctantly puts on her mask. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but she's like, fuck, I'll put it on. Mirage gives Syndrome shit for gambling with her life as Helen rather elegantly sneaks into the compound. And everything about how she uses her power here is awesome. How she's like riding on top of the thing. She's hiding in the archway. And then, of course, we get the great scene where she gets caught. Her foot gets caught, and then her waist gets caught, and then her hand gets caught. And she has to fucking knock. She does this thing where she like touches the guy's shoulder and then knocks his ass out. And then takes his key card and has to figure out where to put that in there.
Reminds me so
cool.
much of the comedic beats in Ghost Protocol, where they are sneaking down that hallway with the camera displays. Like it's just like it's quirky and it's silly and it's
but still tense. It's the right amount of tension and fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun as hell. Really, really good.
The rocket, of course, that was about to go off 8 hours ago, is now going off. It launches and unfortunately sends a rush of fire into the cave where Dash and Violet are hiding out. And of course, Dash spots it and immediately races out, saving his sister so they can get out of that moment. The next morning, they trigger an intruder alert, and the guards are dispatched to find them. Mirage sneaks over and frees Mr. Incredible, and he immediately chokes her until she tells him that his family is still alive, and then he immediately hugs her, which is unfortunate timing because right as he hugs her, Helen walks in and just knocks her ass out.
Dude,
I really didn't like this scene.
You didn't like
brutal,
the choking?
Yeah.
No, I think the choking and especially the hugging after, it just didn't feel right. Like, to me, it just didn't feel like that is how he would have acted there. And I get, like, we can make it a background to make it act that way, but just from what you know this character, even if he lost his family and all that stuff, sure, the choking part, but then to hug immediately after is like, it's just weird. It felt too intimate. It felt like a moment just to have his wife
Holly
catch them together.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I'll agree with you, except for the fact that, like, it wasn't a massive plot moment. Helen's a professional and realizes, like, hey, there's shit going down. Like, whatever, you were hugging someone, let's get on with it, right? She gives him a little bit of shit for it, but that's pretty much it. Let's see, Mirage tells them, hey, she wakes up and says, hey, your kids have triggered the alarm and they need your help. And then we pop out into the jungle where the kids are surrounded by these cool chopper, like helicopter thingies. I don't know how you would, I'm just going to call them
They're
choppers.
awesome.
Drones.
They're so cool looking.
And they're so cool. Violet tells Dash to run, and run he does as two of the menacing hoverblade thingies chase after him, leading to the best sequence, I think, in this whole movie, where Dash runs through the jungle, takes two of them out, fights one, and the guy's like trying to punch him. He's like, and then he gets into it where he's like ducking and dodging because the guy's like, there's no fucking way you're going to hit this kid. Takes those two planes out, but then looks over as two more catch up to him. He spots a lake in front of him, closes his eyes because he doesn't know what's going to happen next. And for a second, the music stops until Dash realizes that he's literally running on water. And then that shit kicks back in with a vengeance. And how does he, man? It's awesome.
So good.
And it's not only great, but, like, again, we've already seen him jump onto these things. So creatively, they're like, how could he beat these things? Well, they square off. They come from different angles. He's running on water, and he's cornered, and these things are coming at him. So what does he does? He just stops running, sinks into the water, and they smash together. It's so cool. So like, he beats him by literally stopping to run.
Where he runs kind of around the cave and does like the little loop-de-loop.
Sonic shit.
So cool.
Tight.
Then over on Violet beats the hell out of one of the guards by turning invisible, and then Dash comes to save her, but then one of the other guards gets a beat on him. Sorry, I lost my place there for a second. One of the guards gets beat on Dash and opens fire, but Violet finally, without thinking, just opens up the force field and surrounds him. And he's like, how are you doing this? She goes, I have no idea. And he goes, well, whatever it is, keep doing it. And he just starts rolling like one of those giant balls, and they run down. And of course, they come out of the jungle and smash right into their family. And everyone is incredibly excited to see each other until two more of the little chopper things come in, which Mr. Incredible, the kid, and then the kids like watch in awe as their parents just beat the stuffing out of these other things. Everyone's okay. They hug for a second, and then more guards come in, and boom, that's where we get the pose. And it's dope. And they don't sit on it for too long. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, we're going to lament on this. Just long enough. And of course, unfortunately, they start wrecking shop, but it's spoiled when Syndrome comes in and freezes them all. and then immediately locks them back up in the prison and tells them his grand plan. I'm going to unleash this robot onto the city, and after it's caused mass destruction, I'll fly in and stop it. Then everyone will think of me as a superhero. And Bob's like, oh man, I'm really sorry that. Oh, actually, and then he leaves. And then Bob apologizes to his family, and he says, I'm really sorry for undervaluing them. You're my greatest adventure. But as he continues, Violet's like, all right, I'm done with this, and just uses her power to escape. Again, another wonderfully creative moment, because Syndrome does not know she has that bubble thing. They head to the hangar to find a plane, but the only thing they can spot is a rocket and a Winnebago. And Tim, when you got a rocket and a Winnebago, you got a great way to travel. Gotta make them count. This is the part.
Woman.
Oh man, there was a part earlier where Kevin was talking about where the asshole guards are all taking bets on who's gonna die next in the city, and Bob just walks in and fucking houses them, and you see from the outside as the whole thing is shaking. Meanwhile, in the city,
the lighting and shading just looks weird, Kevin.
It's terrible.
not
It's
quite
terrible.
there yet, Andy.
Look
They
at,
hit render on it. They had to walk away for a month for that
it
one.
looks like
There are no
previs. It really
textures
does.
on the fabric. There's no textures on the fabric.
He's just-
I mean,
he's
it
so
kind of looks
smooth.
like plastic. Yeah, he's so
He's so
smooth.
smooth.
I
He's like
manscaped today,
completely
so I'm
wet.
pretty smooth too. Let's see. Man, meanwhile, again, you got Samuel L. Jackson, Tim. You got to use it, right? We get the great sequence that I think was in the trailer, or that they showed as like a short back before the movie came out. But it's like it's Frozzo, it's Lucius, and he sees the robot, from the window of his like 30th story apartment or whatever. Runs by, goes to get a super suit. It's gone. He's like, "Honey, where is my super suit?" And then of course they just start arguing. His
wife is voiced by Kimberly Clark, who works in Pixar's Human Resources Department.
That's amazing. That is freaking fantastic. Let's see. Syndrome heads in to fight the robot, and he uses his tech to pop off one of its arms. He's got a little remote control on his wrist that'll come in handy a little bit later. But the AI for the bot is just too much and spots the source of Syndrome's control and disables it, knocking Syndrome out in the process.
Another thing I don't love about the movie.
Me too.
No hint at all to this. It just kind of happens. Like I wish there were
The
a little bit of hint.
The learning computer
Like-
learned how to beat Syndrome?
But it
It's-
fighting against itself the first time he brings it out, it's just kind of like, it feels like that should have been.
It's just a quick turn. It's a little too quick of a turn.
Here's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's it.
I
It's
think
just too quick.
I definitely think
Backed
the movie.
up. It just happens fast.
I think the movie we could have used
This
10 to
movie
15 more
moves.
minutes, but back in the day they were like, it's already too long for an animated movie.
Oh,
So I
for
understand
sure.
why they
Really
made some of
long at
these
the time, yeah.
choices. But I like the fact that he's just immediately beaten by this thing because he programmed it to be an AI learning bot and beat everything, and so it learned how to beat him. Not too hard. Also, pretty obvious when you're doing this shit and your arms are popping off. But I'll agree, it could have used. I mean, again, you give me 10 more minutes this movie, Tim. I'm not going to say no to it. Say, okay, I'll sit down for the extended cut. How do we hashtag release the, what did you call it? Up-res cut, Andy? Give it another.
Remastered.
Yeah, it's a
Let's do that.
remaster.
Remaster this shit. Put a couple more scenes in. Craig T. Nelson still kicking. Holly
love
Hunter
it.
still kicking. Kid that played
I will
Dash,
say-
probably
No, we don't need to revoice anybody. No.
No, leave them all there.
I'm saying if you
But
want
he's
to put
saying
more
to add
scenes
those
in,
scenes.
let's add some scenes in where we flesh it out a little. But everyone's still kicking.
I will say that it was right around this time where I was like, no John Ratzenberger. Weird that we're
Oh
not going
my
to get one with him.
Oh yeah.
And then I
Yeah,
just
just
throw
wait.
that out there.
Just
I
wait.
know.
Let's see. The Incredibles ride in the Winnebago, except for Elastigirl, who has to unfortunately tether that thing to the rocket.
It looks
And
so
and we get a little fun scene where he's like, "You okay out there, honey?" She goes, "Do I have to answer that?"
Yep.
And then they land, hit the ground running, and start immediately arguing as couples do over which route to take. As they get to the robot, they roll to a rolling stop in a parking spot, and Bob tells them to stay there while he takes care of the robot. And everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Listen, you got to just stay here because I'm not strong enough." She goes, "I know you're not strong enough." Yada yada. He goes, "No, you don't understand. I'm not strong enough." She goes, "If we work together, you won't have to." Or he says, "I'm not strong enough to lose you again. I can't do that again. I lost you once. Stay here. I'm taking this thing out." And she says, "If we work together, you won't have to be." And then she says, echoing his sentiments from when they got engaged, "Hey, we're superheroes. What can happen?" And the robot immediately attacks them. Just great timing on this. And this whole sequence is great. Of course, Frozone finally found his costume and gets in on it. Bob fights Syndrome's remote and uses it to detach another one of the robot's arms. There's a scene where it's going to smash him, and Violet uses her powers, but she's not quite powerful enough. So Bob comes in and takes her. So there is some working of the
awesome.
team here. Yeah,
So great. All this stuff is just so well done, and seeing each one of the family members save another family member, beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
And Frozone being there too, adding so much fun. I love that we actually
So
got
cool.
to see him suited up and doing some stuff. And the way they animated him, like constantly having to throw the stuff to
Nice.
freeze in front of him, so cool.
Him in
so
action
fun.
is a lot of fun when that big wave is overtaking him and he freezes the whole wave and he kind of crashes onto the
Into
street.
the
Just
snow.
really neat visuals. Yeah.
What's funny about that though is that is the one moment that I was like, that snow looks really good compared to everything else. Like the snow almost looked realistic compared to everything else. I was like, could have dialed that one back a little bit, but saved yourself about a month of rendering on that bad boy, on those particle effects. Of course, this whole thing ends with when Bob remembers that the only thing that can penetrate the skin of this thing is its own claw. He grabs the thing and tells Helen to fire it up. And she says, not yet. I'm waiting for this thing to get closer. And he goes, just do it, do it, do it. She fires it up. He lets it go, and it stabs through the front and then puts the thing's heart out through its back and kills it. Very, very cool. Let's see. With the city saved and Syndrome's assets frozen, Rick tells the family that the supers are going to be taken care of. And he's like, you mean we can come back? He goes, I don't know. I'm not. That's beyond my pay grade, but I'm pretty sure the government's going to take care of you and figure it out. As they're driving, Helen checks her messages from the babysitter, and they get progressively more dire. So they head home.
Good.
Great. They head home. Of course, the last message is like, oh, thank God. So thank you so much for sending a replacement for me. And they're like, we didn't send a replacement. Of course, when they walk in, they spot Syndrome kidnapping Jack. Unfortunately for Syndrome, Jack just discovered his powers, and they are severe. He is a shapeshifter and can just do all sorts of horrible shit if you're holding him in your arms, and he does not want to be held there. But of course, he's way too high to fall. So Helen tells Bob to throw something. He's like, I can't throw something at him without risking hitting Jack. And she says, you know what? Throw me. And I've often said, Kevin, throw me. I'm like your Wolverine. You be my Colossus. You just throw me up there. I'll get the cookies, bring them back
Like
down.
Gimli.
Got the cookies.
Exactly. Which Helen does. He throws her. She grabs Jack, floats safely to the ground, and Syndrome's like, oh, you know what, though? I'm still going to get away, and I'm going to haunt you guys. And he starts monologuing again, and fucking Bob just takes his new sports car and just hurls it at the plane.
it at him.
And then
So good.
we get the great payoff of the cape.
So good.
Which is that he gets his cape sucked into the turbine and explodes and dies. And then another payoff as they turn around, they see the little kid with his tricycle, and he's like, that was awesome.
So good.
So good. We cut forward later again to the school year where we're at a track meet, and Violet finally asks out
quick.
Tony. Actually, she doesn't even ask out Tony. She just basically tells him he's going out with her, which is great. Go ahead, Kev.
In Jack Attack, they like I mentioned earlier, they show the other side of all the voicemail, and at the end when Syndrome is there, the girl is so like exhausted that she's like, yeah, just like take him, and like Syndrome starts talking about how the S on his shirt stands for sitter. He's like, well, I was gonna do babysitter, but I couldn't just walk around with BS on my shit.
That's
it's
funny.
just such a funny little
awesome.
comedic thing. Anyway.
God, and imagine that from Jason Lee. Sounds
It's so well done. It's so well done. Yeah.
This is
Of
the
course.
scene where I laughed the most. The track meet.
Track meet, or they're like, no,
this
slow down.
This scene makes me crack up so much. Like, no. Make it close. Make it close.
But you know why, Andy? Because it's homie that's watching them do this. There's like one fan, like one spectator who's watching. He's like, what the fuck is going on? And they just cut to him, and they're like, I don't know.
But I think
of
it's
course,
also
he ends up.
Dash's expression. Like they just nailed the look of him being like, "What? Okay, let me try to get."
They're
this
like,
right,"
run, Dash,
Yeah.
pick up the pace. And then he just like clearly takes it in. Pull it back, make it close, okay? It's fucking great. I love it.
Of course, I think Dash ends up taking second in that race, and as they're celebrating, they walk out to the parking lot. And who should pop up? Joey, but the Underminer, voiced by. Pretty sure
John
Ratzenberger. There it is.
Ratzenberger. Welcome to
I was
John
so happy.
Ratzenberger
I
watch.
was gonna be so
Who-
sad if we got a whole movie
Oh,
without
God,
you.
no, you got to have it. And of course, the Underminer is declaring war on peace and happiness. And as Bob looks around at his family, they're all already putting on their masks. When it cuts back to him, he puts his on too.
Oof.
Puts up his shirt. You see the
Goosebumps.
Let's
Incredibles
go,
logo.
baby. Let's
So
go.
good.
Some fun
Abs-
comic facts and stuff where you hear is obviously The Incredibles, loosely based on Fantastic Four, the whole superhero family thing.
Sure.
And that's really tied together here with Thunderminer, who is Mole Man, which is one of the most iconic Fantastic Four
Oh, that's
villains.
funny. I didn't know that.
And yeah, it's like very, very similar looking, very similar, the drills and stuff, living underground, all that. But a fun thing that I didn't realize is the makers of the Fantastic Four 2005 movie were forced to make significant script changes and add more special effects because of similarities to the storyline of this movie. So it's like, damn.
That sucks. That sucks when people start comparing, like, there's another movie that came out that's similar to this, and it's The Incredibles. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
we're going to lose.
Wait,
Damn it.
And we just lost.
It's time for the Pixar theory with the nanobiologist here. There's a recurring theory that every single Pixar movie is connected in some way. Here's the deep dive, red string everywhere theory for where The Incredibles fits into the big picture. The Incredibles threads come from facts given to us from the movie. Those are, we have no idea where supers come from. There's nothing bad that really happens after supers go into hiding. The government covers all legal fees and the superhero relocation program. The government must know the true identities of every super, and every villain doesn't have a superpower. With that said, let's get back to the first point. We don't know the origin of the supers, but what if they were made by the government, Kevin? Here we go. All the classics that you hear about are the superheroes made by the government for whatever reason. This backs up numerous other facts given to us about why the government is so involved and why every superhero agrees to work with them. But how could they have gotten superpowers? Through the manipulation of Pixar's most powerful resource, emotion. More information about why they disappear in the coming years will be talked about during Incredibles 2, but no spoilers on that for now. But this harness of emotion shows just how powerful it is and how it can literally alter biological life to do incredible things. Finally, Syndrome Tech, the 0-point energy, doesn't go away. This is just the first iteration of the devices that will be used for years and years to come, all of which focus on the use of emotions as a resource shown throughout these movies. I'm still lost, guys, but you know what? Things are starting to connect in some way, and I trust it. Andy, hit me with whatever you want to hit me with.
7 syllables in the middle. You'll need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. Haiku in review.
You can go to patreon.com/kindafunny to write your review in haiku form, just like Joe Mertens did. Love that 60s vibe. Giacchino's score is so dope. Give him a Bond film. Oh, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
That would be sick.
Oh, yeah.
Samuel Griffin says, more than just a team. Incredibles. Assemble. Remember, no capes. Zaid Wilson has a 3-parter here. Fighting evil bots on a tropical island. Sounds familiar. As far as names go, the Nominizian Island, a bit on the nose. Marital disputes, suicide, insurance claims. This is a kid's film? Very good point there. Lee Polero says, family's outstanding, working together to win. Cape does Syndrome in. And we got Miscellaneous. Miscellaneous, as always, writing the plot in haiku. Bob and Helen Parr. Normal life has hit them hard. Soon, Bob goes too far. Bob's got secret work. Finds out Buddy went berserk. Edna shows her work. Helen, Vi, and Dash go down in violent crash. Then a jungle clash.
Ooh.
Syndrome concluded. Underminer intruded. Family suited.
Damn. I always try to guess the word. I couldn't. I was going to say tooted.
Tooted.
Thank you, Miscellaneous. Killing the game, as always. Let's do a little Ragu Bagu.
Ragu. Bagu. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys for the Pixar universe. The rankings, the list as it stands right now. Number 1, Lotsa from Toy Story 3. Number 2, The Prospector and Al from Toy Story 2. Noosewater and Randall from Monsters, Inc. Hopper from Ants is number 5. Number 6, Darla and the Barracuda and Marlin and everyone else from Finding Nemo. Number 7, Woody and Sid from Toy Story 1. And number 8, Gabby from Toy Story 4. Where do we want to put Syndrome on this list?
I would say under the Monsters, Inc. guys. Under Newswater and Randall.
I like that.
What is under them on the list currently again?
Hopper from Ants.
Under them would be Hopper, and then the Finding Nemo, then Woody, and then Gabby.
God,
Okay, I think this
Jason.
goes above Finding Nemo.
I love
I could
Jason
put
Lee's
this-
characterization. I just wish there was more of it. I wish he was like. I wish there was a lot more back and forth between what the hero's doing, what the villain is doing, but
A
it
little
kind
more
of just
rounded
all
out.
happens towards the last act of the movie. Otherwise, I would probably have him much higher, but I like having him below Randall. And
Newswater is what I have it down. Yes.
News. Oh, so Joey, you say that you want them above Finding Nemo below Hopper.
Yeah, after. Yeah,
All
below.
right. So who
Hopper.
thinks they're better than Hopper from Ants? Raise your hand.
Oh, you know what?
No
I'll have
one.
him below Hopper. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
So he's gonna go right
I
after
did
Hopper.
have my
There you
hand
go.
up, Nick. It was you.
I put my hand up too, Kevin. We were
Yep.
outvoted,
But
unfortunately.
just to be clear, not no one.
That's fair. Why did I say no one? Both of us did.
I don't know. Yeah,
weird.
I know. It's you and
What the
me.
hell is wrong with it? That's weird.
I'm telling you guys,
Dumb thing
it
to
is
do.
so much harder to count votes while looking at rankings and trying to
That's
compute
so
it. I
true.
know it sounds simple, but I fuck up constantly, and it's just there's some reason, man. I don't like it. I don't
It's
like
too
it.
many things for my brain to compute. I'm a
It's a lot.
dumbass. All right,
It's a
so
lot.
number 1, Lots. Number 2, Prospector and Al. Number 3, Newswater and Randall. Number 4, Hopper. Number 5, Syndrome from Incredibles. Number 6, Darla the Barracuda. And number 7, Woody and Sid. Number 8, rounding out the list, Gabby from Toy Story 4. That is your list.
There you go. Now it's time to rank the Pixar movies. Currently, number 1, Monsters Inc. Number 2, Finding Nemo. Number 3, Toy Story 3. Number 4, Toy Story 2. Number 5, Toy Story 4. Number 6, Toy Story 1. Number 7, A Bug's Life. Test your might. Kevin, where do you put it?
I would put it as number 1 for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, I really like this movie. I think it's like so much fun, thought out, deep.
Yeah,
Joey?
see- no.
So I think I would put it at number 3, though this is a new segment I'm introducing for maybe just this one episode.
Oh, okay.
I do think that this is the best tie-in to a Disneyland attraction. The
Wow.
Incredicoaster.
Okay.
Really, really cool the way that they handle with the music and stuff like that. I think it's number 1 on that side list that I haven't done before. But I think I would put it at number 3.
Real quick to retort Joey's roller coaster thing. What's it called? Midway Mayhem? Come on, Joey.
Midway
it's good
Mania?
stuff. Yeah, that's it.
It's
That's
just
it.
like a bunch of carnival games, though. It's not like
Makes sense for toys. All I'm saying.
exciting.
Especially
Yeah, but
Toy
it-
Story 4.
Yeah, but that came out like 6 years before Toy Story 4.
Well, I know. It probably inspired it. Just look at the facts.
Nick.
The line's always too long. It's not exciting. Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters is better.
Joey, you have some bad takes. I'm happy with
Damn.
ranking Disneyland. I'm trying to keep my mouth shut
Damn,
here.
Tim's,
So
Tim's boiling over right now. It was
Nick,
a hot
go
take.
for it.
I'm with Kevin. I put this number 1. I know that it doesn't necessarily hit as hard emotionally, like thematically and emotionally, as some of the other movies, but I just think it's so entertaining, and I think it's so well done, and it's just a legitimately great superhero movie, and I love that genre so much. Again, no disrespect to any of these movies, they're all great, especially the top 5 at this point. Like, come on, what are you gonna do? But I'd put this number 1 because I just love rewatching it every time I get the opportunity.
Andy.
This is so tough. I think it just comes down to what I'm more in the mood for and what movie I would rather hit play on again if I had to. And I would probably put this. I would put this below Toy Story 3 at number 4. I think Monsters Inc. I just enjoy more. I think the comedic aspects of it, Billy Crystal and John Goodman, I think are just so flawless, and I can watch them go back and forth and be such opposites. I think they're such great co-stars with each other. It also comes down to those emotional beats, and the movie that's going to make me laugh a lot and also cry, while also being a very competent movie, is almost always going to win. And The Incredibles doesn't make me cry, but it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys with this one. It's difficult because all of these are so damn good. But for me, I am debating between putting it at number 7 or number 8. Like, is Bug's Life or this above it?
Wow.
And again, these are all fucking fantastic movies.
Sure.
But I have the most things I feel are lacking in both A Bug's Life and Incredibles. I'm going to vote. I'm going to put it at number 7, A Bug's Life, because I think that A Bug's Life had more kind of glaring issues in terms of what I'd be looking for out of it. Whereas this one had so much going for it. It just works. It's just good. I just think it lacks some of the things I look for most in Pixar. In terms of it all coming together. And I think I didn't say this earlier, but I want to, is like when I'm talking about the end scene of wanting to see them all work together, compare that to Finding Nemo when everything that the characters have learned from the whole movie is in the one scene coming together where it's like, swim down, just keep swimming. Like both the things come together for them to overcome this together. And I think that this movie has so many things that it adds up and like lobs up. And then there are moments that I'm like, oh, this could have been cooler. And I don't want to think that of a movie, especially a movie of this caliber that is so damn close to perfect in my mind. So I guess it's time to vote. We could start at who thinks it's better than Toy Story 2. Raise your hand. Everyone but me. Who thinks it's better than Toy Story 3? Raise your hand.
This is where I waffle back and forth, but I do think it's better than Toy Story 3.
Kevin, Joey, and Nick keep their hand up. Who thinks it's better than Finding Nemo? Joey's down, which means it is now number 3, The Incredibles.
I don't hate it. I don't love it.
I hate
but I respect it.
Monsters Inc. is
Currently
not
number
better than
1,
this.
Monsters Inc. Number 2, Finding Nemo. Number 3, The Incredibles. Number 4, Toy Story 3. Number 5, Toy Story 2. Number 6, Toy Story 4. Number 7, Toy Story. And number 8, A Bug's Life. So many classic fucking movies, Pixar, man.
Bangers, all of them.
Later this week, we're continuing with Mortal Kombat in review with Balls of Fury.
It's one of those things.
Did Cameron Kennedy make me a new intro? Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he did.
You're
Hey
kidding
Kev,
me.
if I send you into assets right now, can you pull that up?
It's one of those
Yeah.
things
I'd really
where
like that.
I talk a lot, Andy. I talk a lot of shit on this channel about
You
stuff.
do. Yeah.
And I don't ever expect anyone to call me on this shit. And this is me being called on this. Now you all have to watch this movie, and you're gonna think a little less of me because I'm still gonna think it's the funniest fucking movie ever made.
It's pretty funny.
And then we're returning
send
next
that?
week with Pixar in review again. Cars. It's happening, baby.
Oh god, I'm not looking forward to that.
Wow.
Why?
You don't like Cars?
Ka-chow.
Cars one's not bad.
Interesting.
I'll give it a shot. I'm gonna give it a shot.
And also, Cars Land is for sure the best. Like,
Oh, the
interpretation.
best
yeah.
one. 1000%. dude.
Indiana Jones, Star Tours, a lot of dope
Sleep
stuff.
on Mr. Toads, bro.
No.
Wait,
I
I'm
thought
sorry.
Kevin just meant on my arbitrary ranking of Pixar attractions. Disney.
Oh, you're specifically Pixar attractions.
Yeah.
This is not overall. This is within the movies we have watched.
Oh, I
Do
mean,
you think I
even
would
then,
really-
it's still last. I love you guys. Bye.
Wow.
I love
We're
it.
not watching the thing? We're not watching the
Incredicoaster
thing?
is great,
Are
but
we
it's a
not-
fucking
yeah.
roller coaster. This is an animatronic thing.
I want to watch the thing.
You said
Are we
you
not
didn't want to do it, Kev.
Yeah, but like, I thought you were still sending it.
I want to watch the thing.
I would also like to see the thing.
This is a disaster.
All right. Wow.
This is
is
the best
a-
ending we've ever had.
Well,
This is
now
a
it's too
fucking
late.
disaster.
Now we all have to sit in silence for 15 minutes.
Sit
like a
in your
punishment.
shame, everybody.
All right, I just sent it to you.
And while we're waiting, Andy, I can confirm the August 1st, 2020, I think 2021 Goldfish. Very good. Very good. That's
Really?
what the
Okay,
date
I'll
was.
be looking
Yeah.
out for those.
Thank you.
August
2020.
1st,
August
2021.
1st, 2021. Got it.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 months. They
I'll
spoiled
be
like
looking
2
out for
months.
those. I got
I
a
think-
really good bag of whole grain ones, by the way. Always a little bit of a
think that's
crapshoot with the whole grain ones, but they were
Yeah.
fantastic. Great shape, great fluffiness.
These ones are a little too crispy and a little too salty, just how I like them.
Can I ask a question for the goldfish connoisseurs in the chat?
Sure. Yes, you may.
How do you feel about original flavor goldfish? as
Don't
we wait
like
for
them.
this
They're
fast?
just
I like
They're
putting
just
them in
crackers.
soup. I like putting them in soup.
I think they're
Tomato soup?
underrated. There's something about them. Never thought about putting them in
is this-
soup.
Is this going to be an assets or?
It's being sent to you.
Oh, okay.
It's processing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still processing. Hey, chat. What's going on? What's going on, YouTube?
Wait, what kind of soup? What kind-
I mean, you got to put it in like a minestrone or like a tomato
Sure,
soup. It's
minestrone.
best,
No, I mean I
right?
think it works. I think it works perfectly in
minestrone.
like just a chicken noodle soup, a
Oh, okay,
progressive
I can see
chicken noodle
that.
soup.
I could see that. Okay, I don't hate it.
Because I was
You made
all
it to you,
about the saltines.
What about a clam chowder instead of those oyster crackers?
Just
Because they're kind of the
downloading,
same
'cause
thing.
It's big.
It's a
You know,
big file. Yeah, still waiting around.
Still downloading.
just
Almost
in a
400
fun
megabytes.
shape.
Ooh, it's a big file. I guess I could work on a thumbnail.
Sure.
We're doing this.
Glad we committed to
Do you guys want to hear
I
my
hope
favorite
hope
quotes?
you're still here.
I would love to hear
Oh,
them.
they're still
Nick.
Joey,
there.
have you seen Balls of
Getting
Fury, Joey?
excited.
Would
No.
you like to hear
I
my
have not.
favorite quotes?
Oh, I thought you
Wait,
meant
real
from
quick?
Incredibles.
Incredibles,
not
I did
Balls
too.
of
Yeah.
Fury.
No, Balls of Fury.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Incredibles.
I would like to revoke my answer. I do not want to
Yeah,
hear
too
your
late.
favorite
You already
quotes
said
from Balls of Fury.
yes.
The Incredibles quote that I really liked is when Helen walks in on, or not Helen, you know what I'm talking about. When she walks in on Bob hugging the other woman, and then they start fighting. And when they're walking out, she's just like, is that the tone you think you should be using?
Yeah.
I'm just like, that is such a good, couple
Fight line.
fighting
Wife thing.
dialogue.
Yeah.
So great.
Such a good day. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Is that the tone you think you should be using right now? Yeah, you're right. My bad. Dial it back. Dial it back, Joe. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, ready?
Yeah,
Sound like that
we're
girl
ready to
from
go.
TikTok, Andy.
I love her.
For sure. Perfect.
Cameron Kennedy, man. He doesn't miss.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
We will return later this week.
It's the normal audio. Sorry.
Oh, they get it. God, what a fucking disaster we
That's
are. I love you
amazing.
guys. Bye.
Bye.